3 months ago, Yunho had chosen love over revenge. He had chosen Nia Bankol and a future he'd never imagined wanting. He thought the hardest battles were behind him, but he was wrong. The gun trembled in Min Yunho's hand as his best friend's body lay motionless on the warehouse floor, blood pooling beneath him in the dim light. Yunho stared at Ji-hoon, his right-hand man, his brother in everything, and felt something inside him die. "I had to," he whispered to the empty warehouse. 24 hours earlier, Yunho had no idea that the man he'd trusted most had been in love with him for 15 years. He had no idea that love could twist into betrayal so completely. He had no idea that choosing happiness with Nia Bankol would cost him everything. Hello and welcome to Afro-Korean Romance Stories. This is part 2 of Yunho and Nia's love story. Trust me, this one is even more gripping and you'd never anticipate what's gonna happen. Hit the subscribe button to support our channel growth. Like this video and tell us what you think would happen next in the comments. It started with a pregnancy test. Nia Bankol stood in her bathroom, staring at 2 pink lines that changed everything. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. 3 tests later, the result remained the same. She was carrying Min Yunho's child. Joy flooded through her first. She wanted this. Wanted a future with the man who'd shown her what real love looked like, even wrapped in danger and darkness. But terror followed quickly, cold and suffocating. Yunho ran Seoul's criminal underworld. His enemies were everywhere. His past was written in blood. And now she was bringing a child into that world. Her best friend Kahin's words echoed in her mind from weeks ago. He's going legitimate. But is he really? Or is he just doing legitimate things while keeping the rest? Nia pressed her hand against her still flat stomach. She needed to tell him. Needed to see his face when he learned he was going to be a father. That evening, she found him at his penthouse, standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. He turned when she entered, and something in her expression made him cross the room immediately. "What's wrong? Did something happen at the agency?" She handed him the pregnancy test without speaking. Yunho stared at the 2 lines. His face cycled through shock, then fear, and then, unexpectedly, wonder. His hands began to shake. We're pregnant." "Yes." For a long moment, he simply held her, his face buried in her hair. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were wet. Nia had never seen him cry. Not once in the months they'd been together. "I never thought I'd have this," he whispered. "A family. Something real. Are you happy?" Terrified. His voice broke. "But yes. Happier than I've ever been." That night, while Nia slept peacefully against his chest, Yunho lay awake staring at the ceiling. He thought about his father, Min Tae-won, the man who'd rejected him, abandoned his mother, pretended his illegitimate son didn't exist. He thought about the empire he'd built on violence and blood. He thought about every enemy who would use a pregnant woman as leverage. By morning, he'd made a decision. He had to accelerate his transition to legitimate business. Had to get out completely. Before the baby came. The next 2 weeks moved at breakneck speed. Yunho began selling off criminal operations faster than anyone expected. Drug distribution networks transferred to allied organizations. Weapons smuggling exited entirely. Only the nightclubs, real estate, and investment fronts remained, the legitimate faces of an empire being dismantled from within. Park Ji-hoon watched it all with growing unease. "You're moving too fast," Ji-hoon said during a private meeting, his voice tight with barely concealed frustration. "The other organizations will see weakness. The Wangs especially. They depend on our smuggling routes. Then they'll adapt. You built this empire for 15 years. You're dismantling it in 15 weeks. Ji-hoon's eyes flashed. "For what? A woman?" The dismissiveness in his tone made Yunho's jaw tighten. "For a future. Something you should understand. I understand that you're making decisions with your heart instead of your head. That's how people get killed." Something was wrong. Yunho could feel it, a subtle shift in Ji-hoon's energy, a bitterness that hadn't been there before. But 15 years of trust made him dismiss it. Ji-hoon was his brother in everything but blood. His loyalty was absolute. Or so Yunho believed. Later that night, alone in his apartment, Ji-hoon drank expensive whiskey and scrolled through photos on his phone. Images spanning 15 years, him and Yunho as young men building something from nothing. Yunho laughing at one of Ji-hoon's rare jokes. Yunho bleeding after a fight, letting Ji-hoon patch his wounds. Yunho trusting him with every secret, every vulnerability, every dark corner of his soul. Everything except his heart. Ji-hoon had loved him for 15 years. Watched him take lover after lover, knowing none of them mattered, waiting for the day Yunho would finally see what was right in front of him. That day never came. And then Nia Bankol appeared, some African woman who'd kissed him on a street corner, and suddenly Ji-hoon was invisible. The jealousy had been manageable at first. Temporary distractions always faded. But this one didn't fade. This one moved into Yunho's life, into his bed, into his future. This one was carrying his child. Ji-hoon's grip tightened on his glass until his knuckles went white. If he couldn't have Yunho's love, then maybe he could remind him who he really was. A criminal. A killer. Not some domestic fantasy with an African princess. He picked up his phone and dialed a number he shouldn't have. "Mr. Wang," he said when the line connected. "I have information you'll find valuable." The call that changed everything came 3 days later. Yunho was reviewing contracts when his phone rang, an unknown number with a Chinese prefix. Min Yunho. The voice was cold, cultured, dangerous. "This is Wang Lei. I believe we need to meet." The Wang family controlled smuggling routes throughout East Asia. Yunho's exit from that world affected their operations significantly. He'd expected pushback, but the formal demand for a meeting suggested something more serious. "I'll have my people arrange." "No people. Just you. And bring the woman. I want to see what's worth destroying an empire over." The line went dead. Nia insisted on attending despite Yunho's protests. "This affects my life too," she said firmly. "I'm not sitting at home while you make decisions about our future." He couldn't argue with that. He'd promised her honesty, partnership, equality. He couldn't break that promise now. They met Wang Lei in a private room at one of Yunho's high-end restaurants. The Chinese patriarch arrived with an entourage of guards and one other person, a young woman with sharp features and unreadable eyes. "My daughter," Wang Lei said. "Mei Lin." The meeting was tense from the first moment. Wang Lei made his position clear. Yunho's sudden exit from smuggling disrupted carefully balanced alliances. The Wang family didn't accept disruption without compensation. "What kind of compensation?" Yunho asked carefully. Wang Lei smiled, a cold, calculating expression. "Your hand in marriage. To my daughter." The words landed like bombs in the silence. Yunho's hand found Nia's under the table, gripping tight. "I'm not available for marriage arrangements. I have a partner." "The African woman?" Wang Lei's dismissal was obvious. "She's not a wife. She's a distraction. Mei Lin would bring you alliance with our family, legitimacy in circles you can't currently access, and heirs that would unite two empires." Nia spoke before Yunho could, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm sitting right here. And I'm carrying his child." Silence crashed through the room. Wang Lei's eyes narrowed. Mei Lin's expression flickered, surprise, and something that might have been sympathy. "Then you've complicated things significantly." Wang Lei stood, adjusting his suit jacket. "You have 1 month. Marry my daughter, or we become enemies. And you know exactly what that means." He swept out of the room, his guards following. But Mei Lin lingered. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, glancing between Nia and Yunho, "I don't want this marriage either. My father doesn't ask. He demands." "Then we have something in common," Yunho replied. "Perhaps." Mei Lin moved toward the door, then paused. "Perhaps we could find a solution that benefits everyone except him. I'll be in Seoul for the month. If you want to talk privately, I'm willing to listen." She left. Nia and Yunho sat in heavy silence. "Did she just offer to help us?" Nia finally asked. "Maybe. Or maybe she's playing her own game. Yunho pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her protectively. But I'm not marrying anyone except you. Whatever it takes, we'll find another way. It wasn't a proposal. Not yet. But it was a promise. The threats multiplied before the week ended. Yunho's intelligence network reported devastating news. Daniel Min had been released from prison. Charges reduced, sentence commuted, supposedly due to new evidence undermining the conviction. How is that possible? Nia demanded. The evidence against him was solid. Someone with resources intervened. Yunho's voice was grim. Someone who could manipulate judges and fabricate documentation. Who has that kind of power? His jaw tightened until the muscles stood out. My father. Through back channels, Yunho learned the truth. Min Tae-won was dying, liver cancer, perhaps 6 months to live. And he decided he needed an heir who could actually function. Daniel, despite his failures, was still the legitimate son. Still publicly acknowledged. Still capable of inheriting the Min Empire. Tae-won hadn't freed Daniel out of love. He'd freed him as a chess piece. The question was what game the old man was playing. Daniel didn't attack directly. That would have been easier to handle. Instead, he simply appeared. At a restaurant where Nia was dining with clients, sitting across the room, watching her with a smile that made her skin crawl. Across the street from her agency, leaning against an expensive car, not approaching, just making sure she knew he was there. At a charity event Yunho attended, exchanging pleasantries with other guests as if he'd never kidnapped anyone, never threatened murder. Psychological warfare. Letting them know he could get close whenever he wanted. Nia was leaving her agency one evening when Daniel finally made contact. He stepped out of the shadows like a nightmare given form. You look well, he said conversationally. Pregnancy suits you. Yes, I know. Everyone knows. Stay away from me. Or what? You'll tell Yunho? Daniel laughed, and something unhinged lurked in the sound. Prison changes a person, Nia. I'm not the man you knew. I'm not interested in business or reputation anymore. I just want to watch it all burn. You're pathetic. Maybe. He moved closer, and Nia forced herself not to step back. But I'm also patient. And I know something you don't. Her heart hammered against her ribs. What are you talking about? There's a traitor in Yunho's house. Someone who's been watching. Waiting. Feeding information to people who want him destroyed. Daniel's smile widened. Ask yourself, how did the Wangs know about your pregnancy before the meeting? How did they know exactly when to make their move? He walked away before she could respond, leaving Nia standing in the streetlight's glow, blood running cold with sudden, terrible suspicion. She didn't tell Yunho immediately. Part of her dismissed it as manipulation. Daniel was a liar, always had been. But another part remembered something she'd been trying to ignore. The way Ji-hoon looked at Yunho when he thought no one was watching. The way he looked at her, not with professional distance, but with something that burned like hatred. Nia started paying attention. Watching. Noticing. Ji-hoon always knew where they would be before they arrived. He was present for every private meeting, every secret conversation. He'd been with Yunho for 15 years, longer than anyone else in the organization. And lately, he took calls in private. Deleted messages immediately. Disappeared for hours without explanation. She confided in Kahin during a late-night phone call. Daniel said there's a traitor. Someone close to Yunho. And you believe Daniel? No. But I believe my instincts. Nia's voice dropped. Something is wrong with Ji-hoon. The way he looks at Yunho, like he's in love with him. And the way he looks at me, like he hates me for existing. Kahin was quiet for a long moment. If Yunho's right-hand man has been secretly in love with him for years, and you walked in and got everything Ji-hoon wanted, that's a dangerous kind of jealousy. What do I do? Tell Yunho. He won't believe me. They've been together for 15 years. Ji-hoon has bled for him, killed for him. He's family. Then find proof. Proof came from an unexpected source. Mei Lin contacted them 3 weeks after their first meeting, requesting another private conversation. They met at a quiet tea house in Bukshan, away from watching eyes. "I have something for you," Mei Lin said, sliding a folder across the table. "Financial records, shipping manifests, evidence of my father's most illegal operations. Used correctly, this could destroy him, or force him to back down from his demands." Yunho studied her carefully. "In exchange for what?" "My freedom. Help me disappear. New identity, new life, far from my father's reach." Her composure cracked slightly. "I've been a piece in his game since birth. 3 engagements already, each ending when the man became useless to my father. I'm tired of being moved around a board. That's significant trust to place in strangers. I've watched you both." Mei Lin's gaze moved between them. "You chose love over convenience, over an alliance that would have made you stronger. I'm betting you'll do it again." They agreed to work together. But as they were leaving, Mei Lin said something that stopped Yunho cold. "One more thing. Your man, Ji-hoon." Every muscle in Yunho's body tensed. "What about him?" "He's been in contact with my father. I've seen his name in private correspondence." Her eyes held sympathy. "I don't know the details. But I thought you should know." The drive home was silent. Nia could feel Yunho's rage building, a cold, terrible thing that filled the car like smoke. When they reached the penthouse, he finally spoke. "Tell me what you've noticed." "About Ji-hoon." "Everything." She told him. The watching, the jealousy, the way Ji-hoon looked at her with barely concealed hatred. The suspicious calls, the deleted messages, the times he knew things he shouldn't have known. And then she said the words that shattered something in Yunho's chest. "I think Ji-hoon is in love with you. Has been for years. And when I came into the picture, when you chose me, something in him broke." Yunho sank onto the couch, head in his hands. 15 years of brotherhood, trust, and loyalty crumbling around him. He never said anything, he whispered. Never even hinted. "Would you have returned his feelings?" "No. I've never," he was family. Was. And now he's been feeding information to people who want to hurt us. Hurt our child. The last word hung in the air like a blade. When Yunho looked up, his eyes had gone cold. The man who'd been learning softness, learning to love, disappeared. In his place stood the crime lord who'd built an empire on blood. "Bring Ji-hoon to me," he said into his phone. "The warehouse on the east side. Tell him it's business." He looked at Nia, and for a moment, she saw both men he was, the lover and the killer, existing in the same body. "Stay here. Lock the doors. Don't let anyone in except me. Yunho. Please." His voice cracked on the word. "I need to handle this. And I need to know you're safe while I do." She nodded, understanding what he wasn't saying. Whatever happened in that warehouse, he didn't want her to see. He kissed her once, desperate, fierce, like he was memorizing her taste, and then he was gone. And Nia was left alone with the terrible knowledge that the man she loved was about to do something that couldn't be undone. The warehouse was empty except for 2 men. Ji-hoon arrived expecting a business discussion. He found Yunho waiting in the center of the concrete floor, surrounded by shadows and the weight of betrayal. "Where is everyone?" Ji-hoon asked, immediately alert. "I wanted to talk. Just us." "About what?" Yunho's voice was steady. Deadly calm. "About Wang Lei. About the information you've been feeding him. About how long you've been stabbing me in the back." Ji-hoon went very still. For a moment, his mask held. Then something behind his eyes crumbled. "How long have you known?" "Not long enough." Yunho stepped closer. "But I know now." The silence stretched between them, 15 years of history, loyalty, and love twisting into something unrecognizable. Then Ji-hoon laughed. It was a broken sound, full of pain and bitter fury. "You want to know why?" He spread his arms wide. "Because I loved you." The words hit Yunho like bullets to the chest. Ji-hoon's composure shattered completely, years of suppressed emotion pouring out in a flood of raw anguish. I gave you 15 years. 15 years of loyalty, blood, and sacrifice. I killed for you. Nearly died for you. And then she walks in, this woman from nowhere, and suddenly I'm invisible. Suddenly everything we built together doesn't matter. Ji-hoon. I loved you. The confession tore out of him like something dying. I've loved you since we were young and stupid and building something from nothing. I watched you take lover after lover, knowing none of them mattered, waiting for you to finally see what was right in front of you. And you never did. You never saw me. You never told me. How could I? You don't feel that way. I knew you didn't. So I stayed silent, and I stayed close, and I told myself it was enough. Ji-hoon's face twisted with hatred. Until her. She doesn't deserve you. She doesn't understand what you are, what you've done, what you're capable of. She sees some fantasy of redemption. I see the truth. And I love you anyway. So you betrayed me? Yunho's voice cracked with disbelief and rage. Gave information to enemies? Put my child, in danger? I wanted you to remember who you are. A criminal. A killer. Not some domestic fantasy playing house with an African princess. Ji-hoon stepped closer, desperation burning in his eyes. This softness, this reaching for legitimacy, it's a lie you're telling yourself because she makes you feel clean. But you'll never be clean, Yunho. Neither of us will. Silence crashed through the warehouse. Yunho stared at the man he'd trusted more than anyone, his brother in everything but blood, and felt something inside him die. You're wrong, he said finally. About her. About me. About everything. I loved you as a brother. You were family. The only family I chose for myself. And you threw it away for something I was never going to give you. So what happens now? Ji-hoon's voice dropped to a whisper. You kill me? The gun felt impossibly heavy in Yunho's hand. He'd killed before, many times, without hesitation. But this was different. This was 15 years of shared history. This was someone who'd saved his life more than once. This was a man whose only crime was loving someone who couldn't love him back. But it wasn't the only crime. Ji-hoon had endangered Nia. Endangered their unborn child. Had chosen destruction over acceptance. If you'd only fed information to Wang Lei, maybe I'd let you walk away, Yunho said quietly. Exile. Disappearance. A chance to start over somewhere far from here. But you didn't just betray me. You put the mother of my child in danger. You put my baby in danger. His grip tightened on the weapon. For that, there's only one answer. Ji-hoon closed his eyes. Then do it. At least I'll stop feeling this way. The shot echoed through the warehouse like thunder. Yunho stood over Ji-hoon's body for a long time, the gun hanging limp at his side. 15 years, ended in a single moment. The man who'd been his shadow, his shield, his closest confidant, gone because love had twisted into something monstrous. When he finally returned to the penthouse, Nia was waiting. She took one look at his face and opened her arms without asking questions. He broke down for the first time since his mother's death. I had to, he whispered against her hair. I know. He was family. I know that too. I'm not a good man, Nia. I never will be. She lifted his face to hers, forcing him to meet her eyes. You're the man I chose. The father of my child. Whatever you are, whatever you've done, I chose you. And I keep choosing you. They held each other through the night, and Yunho learned that sometimes the deepest wounds come from the people you trust most. But the war was far from over. Ji-hoon's death sent shockwaves through Yunho's organization. His people were shaken. If the boss's most trusted man could fall, no one was safe. Whispers of instability spread through Seoul's underworld. Rivals sensed blood in the water. And Daniel Min circled like a shark. The attacks came in rapid succession. First, Nia's agency was vandalized, threatening messages painted on the walls in red, her employees terrorized, her reputation targeted. Then came something far worse. Kehind was attacked leaving work one evening. 3 men beat her savagely, leaving her bloodied on the sidewalk with a message carved into the concrete beside her: "Tell Nia to leave Seoul." Nia sat by her best friend's hospital bed, guilt consuming her from the inside out. "This is because of me," she whispered. "Because of Yunho. Because of this whole mess." Kehind, bruised and bandaged but fierce as ever, grabbed her hand. "Don't you dare blame yourself. That psychopath Daniel did this. Not you. Maybe I should leave. Take myself out of the equation." "And go where?" "He'd follow you. This isn't about you running away. It's about ending this. Ending him." When Yunho saw what Daniel had done, something cold and terrible settled over him. The man who'd been learning softness vanished. The crime lord emerged, calculating, ruthless, ready for war. "He wants destruction," Yunho said, his voice flat and deadly. "He'll get it. Yunho, think about this." "I've thought about it. He doesn't get to hurt the people you love and walk away." For the first time, Nia truly saw what Yunho was capable of. Not the softened version he'd been showing her, but the killer. The crime lord. The man who'd built an empire on violence and blood. She should have been afraid. Instead, she said, "What do you need from me?" He looked at her, surprised, moved, grateful. "Stay protected. Let me handle Daniel. I'm not helpless. And I'm not hiding while you fight my battles. You're carrying my child." His voice cracked. "That makes you the most important thing in my world. Please. Let me protect you." It was the please that did it. Not a command. A plea. "Okay," she agreed. "But I want to know everything. No more secrets. No more secrets." Before Yunho could move against Daniel, another complication arrived, a formal summons from Min Tae-won. The father who'd never acknowledged him wanted a meeting. "A matter of inheritance to discuss before I die." "It's a trap," Nia said immediately. "Probably. But I need to know what he wants." Yunho's jaw tightened. "And I need to look my father in the face at least once. Then I'm coming with you." Nia. Non-negotiable. The Min family estate sprawled across the outskirts of Seoul, a massive traditional Korean compound that Yunho had only seen in photographs. He'd spent his childhood in poverty while his half-brother grew up surrounded by this wealth. The irony was suffocating. Min Tae-won waited in a wheelchair, visibly dying, gaunt, pale, but still radiating the cold authority that had built an empire. When Yunho entered with Nia, the old man's eyes showed no surprise. "So. The bastard finally comes home." Tae-won's gaze swept dismissively over Nia. "And brings his foreign woman. This is Nia. The mother of my child. You'll speak to her with respect." "A child." Tae-won laughed bitterly. "Another generation of this cursed bloodline. Tell me, does she know what you really are? What you've done?" "Yes. And she stays anyway." The old man shook his head. "Foolish or desperate, I can't decide which." Nia spoke before Yunho could respond, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Neither. I stay because he's a better man than you ever taught him to be." Silence. Then, unexpectedly, Tae-won smiled. "She has fire. Your mother had fire too." It was the first time he'd ever acknowledged Yunho's mother. The words landed like a punch to the chest. "Why am I here?" Yunho demanded. "Because I'm dying. Cancer. 6 months, maybe less." Tae-won's voice was matter-of-fact, as if discussing the weather. "Daniel is useless, prison destroyed whatever sanity he had left. He's a liability, not an heir. That leaves you. You spent my entire life pretending I didn't exist." "Yes. A mistake. One of many." The old man leaned forward in his wheelchair. "But I'm offering to correct it now. Marry the Wong girl, Mei Lin, unite our organizations, and inherit everything. The legitimate businesses. The underground operations. All of it. I'm not marrying Mei Lin. I'm with Nia. The African? Taewon waved dismissively. She's a distraction. A temporary pleasure. Mei Lin would bring power, alliance, a legitimate dynasty. Nia is carrying my child. She's not a distraction, she's my future. Despite his words, the offer landed. Everything Yunho had ever wanted, acknowledgement, legitimacy, his birthright, was being handed to him on a silver platter. The little boy who'd watched his mother die of heartbreak, who'd built an empire just to prove he mattered, wanted desperately to say yes. Taewon saw the conflict in his eyes. Think about it. You have until I die. But if you refuse, everything goes to Daniel. Whatever's left of it. His smile was cruel. Is your pride worth watching everything go to the man you hate? In the car afterward, Yunho was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. I'm not going to take it. I know. He offered me everything I've wanted since I was a child. Everything I built my entire life around wanting. I know that too. And it doesn't matter. He turned to face her, and Nia saw the resolution in his eyes. Because accepting means becoming him. I'd rather build something of my own, something clean, than inherit something poisoned. She took his hand. I would have understood if you needed time to think. There's nothing to think about. You. Our child. That's my legacy now. Not his. But they'd underestimated how far Daniel was willing to go. He struck the morning of Yunho's planned meeting with Wang Lei. While Yunho was preparing to use Mei Lin's evidence to neutralize the Chinese patriarch, Daniel's men grabbed Nia from her agency in broad daylight. Professional. Brutal. Efficient. By the time anyone could respond, she was gone. Nia woke in an abandoned building, wrists bound, head pounding from whatever drug they'd used. Daniel sat across from her, a gun resting casually on his knee. Hello again, Nia. His smile was empty. Wrong. Prison had broken something fundamental in him. You look tired. Pregnancy will do that. If you hurt my baby. I don't care about your baby. Or you, really. He shrugged carelessly. You're just bait. The lure that will bring my brother to me. Yunho will kill you. Probably. But I'll make sure he suffers first. Nia forced herself to think through her fear. Daniel was unstable, ranting about how Yunho had destroyed his life, how their father had chosen the bastard over the legitimate son, how everything was unfair. Maybe she could use that instability against him. Your father offered Yunho the empire, she said. Did you know that? Daniel went very still. What? Yunho met with Taewon. Your father offered him everything, the businesses, the operations, all of it. Called you useless. A liability. The rage that crossed Daniel's face was terrifying. His grip tightened on the gun until his knuckles went white. He's lying. Father would never. Call him. Ask him. See what he says. It was a gamble. Daniel's sanity was already fractured. This might shatter it completely, making him more dangerous, not less. But Nia needed to destabilize him. Needed to create an opportunity. When Yunho learned Nia had been taken, something fundamental shifted in his soul. Grief, hesitation, attempts at redemption, all of it fell away. What remained was pure, focused violence. Find her, he ordered his men. Whatever it takes. Whatever it costs. Mei Lin proved invaluable. She knew Daniel's likely locations, his patterns, his weaknesses. Her information narrowed the search within hours. The assault on the abandoned building was swift and brutal. Yunho led it personally, no delegation, no distance. This was too important for anything less than his complete presence. He moved through Daniel's guards with devastating efficiency, 15 years of violence concentrated into purposeful destruction. Every obstacle between him and Nia was eliminated without hesitation or mercy. He found her tied to a chair, Daniel pressing a gun against her temple. Put down your weapons, Daniel screamed, or I'll kill her. You do that, you die before her body hits the ground. Then we all die together. Daniel's eyes were wild, completely unhinged. Father chose you. The bastard. The criminal. Over me. I did everything right, the education, the company, the good son performance. And he chose you. He chose power, Yunho said quietly. He always does. You were never enough for him. Neither was I. Neither was anyone. That's not good enough. I deserve better. While Daniel focused on Yunho, Nia acted. She'd been working at her bonds since she woke up, slowly loosening the ropes around her wrists. When Daniel's attention shifted, she threw herself sideways, out of the line of fire. Yunho didn't hesitate. His shot took Daniel in the shoulder, not lethal, but completely disabling. Daniel dropped, screaming, and Yunho was across the room in seconds, kicking the gun away, standing over his half-brother with murder in his eyes. Finish it, Daniel gasped. Kill me. That's what you do, right? Yunho raised his weapon. Every justification existed. Daniel had kidnapped the mother of his child, threatened his family, earned death 100 times over. But Nia's voice stopped him. Don't. Not like this. He deserves it. Yes. But you don't deserve to carry it. She struggled to her feet, moving toward him. Let him face justice. Real justice. Let the world see what he is. For a long moment, the outcome hung in perfect balance. Then Yunho lowered the gun. You're not worth the bullet, he said to Daniel. Or the stain on my soul. His people secured Daniel for the authorities, along with evidence of the kidnapping, the attacks, everything he'd done. This time, no amount of family money would save him. The Wang situation resolved more peacefully. Confronted with the evidence Mei Lin had provided, Wang lay back down. The marriage demand was withdrawn. A cold peace was established. Yunho's organization and the Wangs would operate in separate spheres. Mei Lin got her freedom. New identity, resources, a path to somewhere far from her father's reach. Before she left Seoul, she met with Nia one final time. Thank you, Mei Lin said. For seeing me as something other than a bargaining chip. Thank you for choosing to help when you didn't have to. Take care of each other. Mei Lin smiled softly. What you have is rare. Don't let anyone destroy it. Min Tae-won died 2 months later, watching his legitimate son's final disgrace from his deathbed. His empire fragmented, legitimate portions going to executives, criminal operations absorbed by rivals. Yunho inherited nothing. He didn't care. 6 months after the kidnapping, Nia went into labor on a spring evening with cherry blossoms drifting past the hospital windows. Yunho had faced down rivals, survived assassinations, killed without hesitation. But watching Nia in pain, knowing he couldn't do anything to help, broke him open in entirely new ways. When the doctor placed his daughter in his arms, he wept. She's perfect, he whispered. She's so perfect. She has your eyes, Nia said, exhausted but radiant. And your strength. She'll need it, with us as parents. They named her Seo Yun. A Korean name meaning felicitous omen. A new beginning. 3 weeks after Seo Yun's birth, Yunho proposed. Not in a fancy restaurant or at a gala, in their home, Nia in sweatpants, baby sleeping in the next room, both of them exhausted and happy and completely real. Marry me, he said. Not for alliance or convenience. Just because I can't imagine my life without you. Because you make me want to be better. Because you saw who I could become when I couldn't see it myself. Yes. Simple. Perfect. Earned. A year later, they stood together at a small wedding, Kihind as maid of honor, trusted friends gathered close, Seo Yun in a tiny dress held by Nia's mother who'd flown from Lagos. Yunho took Nia's hands in his, making vows not just to her, but to the future they'd built from wreckage and redemption. I promise to choose you, he said. Every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I promise to trust you. With my heart, my fears, my future. I promise to be the man you deserve, even when I don't feel worthy. I promise to remind you that you are. They kissed as the sun set over Seoul, and somewhere in their home, Seo Yun made a small, perfect sound, a new voice in a story that began with revenge and ended with love. Later that night, Nia stood at the window of their penthouse, watching the city lights glitter like scattered diamonds. Yunho came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That a year ago, I was crying outside a nightclub in a gold dress, and some criminal stranger offered me his handkerchief." Some criminal stranger? Extremely dangerous. Terrible reputation. She smiled. Very attractive. Sounds like bad news. The worst. She turned in his arms. Also the best thing that ever happened to me. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips, soft and reverent, like she was something precious. "I love you," he said. "More than revenge. More than legacy. More than anything I ever thought I wanted. I love you too. All of you. Even the parts you think are too dark to deserve it." From the bedroom, Seoyun began to fuss. Yunho went to get her, returning with their daughter cradled against his chest, her tiny fingers wrapped around his thumb. Nia watched them, this man who'd killed for her, changed for her, chosen her over everything, and felt her heart expand until it ached. This was what they'd built. From revenge, from pain, from impossible choices. This family. This love. This life. And it was more than she'd ever known to want. If you enjoyed Nia and Yunho's story, drop a comment telling us your favorite moment. Would you trust a dangerous man who chose love over power? Like this video and hit that subscribe button for more Afro-Korean romance stories. We'll see you in the next one.